Hello, good evening. Welcome. Hi, Marcus. How are you? It's been so long since I've seen you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank
Yeah.
you. And how about yourself?
Well, thank you. I'm doing good. This is episode 4 of the Fourfold Formula mini-series, and we are live. And both of our guests this evening have apparently, our co-hosts have apparently become so rich and famous that they must be off in an interview in Paris or something that they have not arrived to the studio yet,
Hmm.
which is fine. We'll chat. We're going to chat. How are you, buddy? What are your thoughts? What's happened? Like, how do you feel? The book came out and, you're a physician and you go to work, and let's just talk for a little bit amongst ourselves.
Well, I have not displayed the book in my office yet, so there's not a whole lot of uptick in that area because, I'm starting my 2-week turn next week. So,
Right.
so that's when things in that realm are going to start heating up,
Yeah.
So I already checked with corporate and all that kind of stuff to make sure that you're doing these things correctly.
Yeah, you have to, of course, of course. Before we came on, you guys, the fourfold formula for all things wellness. I'm sure you've seen enough nauseating stuff from me over the last 9 months. Marcus and I decided to write a book and to get together a bunch of people to talk about their personal stories, their heart, their spirit, their mind, and their body with absolutely no judgment, no criteria. And they just went off and either brought us a journal entry, a brand new story, repurposed something. I mean, there was no criteria. And so we're just chatting today. Our mini series, we bring on co-hosts, which are we're not setting them up specifically, but any of our contributing authors who want to come on and talk about their stories. But so since it's just you and me, babe, it's just us tonight. All right. So this book came out, and you were saying something when we were kind of in the green room about you were contacted that somebody that you haven't heard from for a long time bought the book and reached out to you about your story.
Right.
Guess who's finally here? The chick from the Bronx. You know what I'm saying, or wherever she's from. Thanks for showing up here. The chick from the Bronx. You know what I'm saying, or wherever she's from.
Right in.
Why is there so much feedback?
You know what I'm saying? Right, there's a lot of feedback. Whoa. It's okay. It's probably your Facebook or your Messenger. Kind of happened with Marcus and I earlier. We can test you. Hey, is that safe?
We're good.
And Marcus, I'm going to unmute him and see if we're safe with him. Marcus, every time I unmute you, you then mute yourself again. See, he did it again. Okay. You go ahead and do it, Holmes, because it won't let me unmute you. So that could be a sign from up above. Hey, he's stuck. This could be very interesting. Yeah.
There. Hey.
Andy, thank you for showing up. We were just like kicking off, and we're so glad that you're here to help run the show, girl.
I'm excited. This is great.
This is great. So we're just chatting about like whatever, and you were one of the contributing authors, and the book just came out, and we just want to see, like, when I was putting out today what we were going to chat about, yours is one of those stories that your trials and tribulations are relatively kind of newish. I mean, you've really come to your awareness like last 3 or 4 years of growth. Like, tell us about your story, girl.
Oh my God, where do you want me to start?
So
I mean, well, I wrote about it in the book, but no, I think it's been like an astronomical amount of growth in the last couple of years. And I think that it was just, like the buildup that happens over several decades.
Yeah.
And you just have several decades. And, I believe I subscribe to the philosophy that time isn't linear, that it's a complete whole. And I think that I just hit a tipping point And over the last couple of years, and then things have just been kind of ricocheting in a direction that's been really powerful. But in the story that I wrote about in the Fourfold Formula was about my coming to grips with my self-disrespect. And my now ex-boyfriend left me at an airport in the middle of the night without a flight home in January of 2018. He's not the villain in my story. You know, he is a fine person, but we were drinking pretty heavily, and I had created a reality where I consistently disrespected myself in so many different areas. And it was in that moment and the realizations that I made in that moment, like the things that I saw at that evening, that really was just enough to wake me up. Like just enough. Like, we can't wake ourselves up often. That's why, people in personal development exist. We show people, we hold mirrors, we help people see blind spots. And I was unwilling to ask for help. And it was that moment that really kind of set me in the right direction. And that's kind of ambiguous, but there was just, my life was so completely different 5 years ago. I mean, I'm a marathon runner now. I own a business. I mean, before that, I was working at a restaurant. I drank 4 to 5 nights a week. I was 50 pounds heavier. I smoked cigarettes for 18 years. I mean, like, just so much shit, like that kind of just started changing after that moment. So I wrote about that in my story. And
have you shared that story on a larger platform before this book?
No. So pieces. So like pieces of that, but there's a lot of, I think you guys are having a lot of conversations right now, and the shame factor does play in. And not that I'm ashamed of anyone that I've been, but you worry about what people are going to say. And it's always, and I always say that, especially when I work with clients, like it's never the world. You never care what the world is going to say. You don't care about some random person in Argentina and what they're going to
yeah.
story. It's always the people that are closest to you, your mother, the people that you write about in the story. Like you worry about that. So I think that it was, and it's one of those things where you want to protect. It's, at least in my experience, want to protect this person, and then you're like, honestly, they're not even reading, so who cares? And like just tell the story. And that was a hump I had to get over. So that story in its entirety, this was the first time that I've said, this is the story of what happened at the airport. Like this is the story of what happened in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Markus, what was your thoughts when we were reading Andy's story, putting it together with her?
Well, first of all, I thought he was a jerk. So I appreciate that you still find him some sort of human being, abandoning somebody at an airport. That's pretty much topping it off when it comes to trying to end a relationship. Oh boy! But generally speaking, I mean, the fact that there was tenacity to get through the process after the realization. Like you say, it's sort of like a waking up, or getting unplugged from the matrix or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly.
And as soon as that happens, you sit there and you go like, holy smokes, what now? And you just outline how you managed to do that. And that is the fantastic part of the story, as far as I'm concerned, giving people an opportunity to pick up on the ability to see that, there are ways out. Yours is a particular way, and hopefully a bunch of people will be able to follow that path. And that's what we're hoping for, generally speaking.
Andy, the book is based on the 4 quadrants of the All Things Wellness Wheel. So the 4 chapters. So when we were looking at where to put different stories, obviously, your story could fit in the heart chapter with relationships or integrity or coping skills, or over on the spiritual side with a wake up call, or, come to Jesus, or down in the body category, talking about just health in general or exercise. But the reason we specifically put you in the mind chapter was truly just the self-awareness, the personal awareness, the making the choices, the changing the habits, the creating new routines, and just almost creating knew you, and that's why we put you in that chapter.
Well, I loved it. I didn't know where I was going to be. And then I got the book and then I opened it up and I'm like, well, this is appropriate because I'm such a cerebral, like I'm a Vulcan, like hyper rational, like always logic, always thinking, always, I blog for you, Peggy, and like just the way that I structure them, it's a lot of brain. Some of my growth now actually is very much aligned with getting out of the brain. So it's interesting that, like that as I progress down this, it's more like you use what does Ram Dass say? You use the rational mind to bypass the rational mind. And then you just forget everything. And then you just kind of, so it was very fitting. And I was very flattered and I was excited. And I was like, this is where I can make my home here,
Awesome.
Yeah, the focal point for me in the story was the recognition, the end of disrespect, right? That was the key verbiage in there that just made me say, wow, this is a totally different perspective. I never thought of it that way, and that's those are the little morsels that make you realize, hey, I can wake up, I can stop disrespecting myself and my body,
Mm-hmm.
That's a mind construct for sure.
Huge.
Right there.
Andy, what would you say for, and I don't want to be like interviewee-ish, but the reason I'm bringing this up is I was contacted today by one of our other authors, and there's a situation in her professional environment where she's going to kind of stand up and say, I'm not going to take this anymore. And she's also in your chapter. I'll just say that. So I'm just very curious. We all have addictions. So one of my stories is being addicted to mania, and I'm curious what your red flags are. If you still have some sort of thing you're addicted to, how did you dial it back? How did you cope with that? Like, can you talk to anybody who might be listening and how you went through that?
Well, awareness is the first step. So just kind of understanding. And after I stopped drinking the day after Christmas, 2019. So COVID hit 3 months later. And here I am on a 118-day run streak. And you think, oh yeah, I'm working through my shit. And it's like, no, actually you're just replacing your shit with other shit. And that's fine. Like, it's okay. But then I got hurt, and then it was like, oh, now I so clearly see. And actually, one of my mentors, his name is Andy. He said, you just at the time you just replaced an addiction with another addiction. Right. So it was like almost like the universe kind of had me sit still and say, okay. In terms of like being addicted to something like mania, which I don't experience, but I have had experience in knowing people that have. It's mostly about just noticing the trigger and when it starts, noticing you're in the cycle. So if you're in a cycle and you catch yourself leaning towards a repetitive behavior, and then you catch yourself doing that behavior or insisting you do it even when it's not serving or things like that, then that's a red flag. Like, that's something to look at. If it's causing you more harm, if you're kind of getting away from yourself, if you're avoiding, some people will use work as distraction. Then, like you see this all the time, the classic CEO marriage is falling apart, like that kind of thing. Like, are you distracting yourself from personal relationships? Is this something that you're doing just because it's comfortable? Like, it's comfortable to set back into old habits. It's comfortable.
Of course.
It's so easy. So I don't know anything about this person's situation with their job.
I was bouncing it off the thing that Markus was saying and that you were saying about no longer allowing disrespect, because it's that type of thing.
Yeah, and if that is happening, it really is this. I think that a lot of times what we'll do is we'll allow disrespect when we think that we're not worthy or not capable of doing something else. So if you are being disrespected and then the excuse is, I have to be disrespected because I can't do any better than this. It's like, that's not true. The universe is abundant. Like, there will be another opportunity. Your capacity will expand for something else. And at this moment, you have no capacity because you're in survival with this I don't know if they have no capacity, but but survival does take up a lot of capacity. Like it really does. Being in survival, it makes you unable to really create because you're protecting yourself. So, everything is calculated. Everything is. So if it's a disrespectful job, which I've been in one of those, it's really hard when you're on the inside of it. But just the belief that it'll be better, and it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, that is very true. And generally speaking, moving along that path is what we are trying to proliferate, the loss of disrespect. Wouldn't that be so? It's such a different world. I mean, if other people wouldn't do that to you, you wouldn't do that to anybody else. It's a work in progress for sure, but the only way, like you said, to make it happen is to wake up and figure out that that's what you're basically doing.
I like to think about like the late great Wayne Dyer. He's one of my favorites, and it's all his work on, or just what he says about responsibility, like to respond with ability, and to realize that like, what is your like respond with ability? Like it might not be your fault that you were disrespected, but now it's your responsibility. And what is your responsibility to change these situations? Like it's okay. Like I don't want to use this word, but like, okay, I'm too fat. Like I weigh almost 200 pounds and I'm 5'3". Like that's how I was, like
Right.
I'm heavy. I have constant acid reflux. Like I'm achy. I hurt in places I've never hurt. Is that my fault? Yeah, maybe not. I have stress, whatever, global pandemic that happened to some people. Now it's my responsibility.
Exactly.
My responsibility. It's like, I don't have to be disrespected in this area. Like, I don't need to be disrespected. I don't need to continue to disrespect myself, regardless of what anybody does. And sometimes that's hard because, especially people that have like big T trauma, like, like somebody really hurt you. And it's hard to swallow, like, and now that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to heal. It's your responsibility to do the inner work. It's your responsibility to get yourself back. Like, and it sucks that, as Marcus, I'm sorry.
I know what he's going to say. He's going to say, Andy, I'm so glad you're a part of book 2 because I know you so well. He's like, that's so great because our second book called Win the Wellness War. You're not responsible.
Oh my God. We are responsible. We are responsible. And like, that's like, just that mind-blowing, mind-altering kind of concept. Because I heard people say that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I ever like internalized it or if I just had to hear it from someone specific or what, but we are responsible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the beauty is that once you recognize that, then we are going to give you a tool like the wellness wheel to figure out where the heck are the punctures, and where are you deficient, and what do you think you need to approach? And you can set up a hierarchy and start working on all those different points of your life to make it worthwhile, because a lot of people I see suffering alone, unfortunately, and it's, for most of them, not really necessary. If you change your attitude, if you would just realize what you yourself are doing to yourself, to others, and everything else, would be such a better place. We're going to get there. You give it a year or two after the book is out, and everybody will change their ways.
So useful though, because books are so useful for people that, like you said, don't have community. And I would be lying if I said that community was not a big part of my, like, just joining my first community, which was the Whole Life Challenge. I read about it in that, in the story, but then also just continuing to be surrounded by those people that were in that community. The co-founder became a mentor of mine. That's Andy I mentioned earlier, and a really good friend. And I learned a lot from him. And we're the makeup of the 5 to 6 people closest to us. So my whole social circle was most of my close friends were people that were struggling with the same things that I was. And it's really hard to crawl out of that when everybody is struggling. So books are very important. Books are important when people don't necessarily have access or know where to find access. And then you see these names of people in these books and you're like, maybe I'll follow that person. And then it expands. And then you have another person that's following you. And then you have another person that's reaching out to you. And then all of a sudden, everyone in their circle is healing. And it's huge. It's so big. It's so expansive. And sometimes we can't see beyond our little selves to see how important the work we're doing really is. So what you guys are doing is so important. And I'm really honored to be a part of it. And I think it's awesome. And yeah, I think that like
we're glad you joined in, you know?
It's great.
Absolutely. It's fantastic.
It's the cross fiber of meeting people that aren't in your top 5, 10, 20, 80, 100, you know, and you meet people and you start to understand and it causes conversation. And like you said, then they're following you, then they're asking questions, and then they're referring people to look at your things. And it's just, it's a sense of, you know, even if we end up all agreeing to disagree or whatever. I mean, we have people reading for the first time. My lighting, God dang it. We have people reading for the first time who've never read and never written and never. And so as being a part of this book, not like social media, had 50 friends, scared to death, and just to watch the evolution of behavior. And just, it's been amazing to see.
Absolutely.
So wild and cool. Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, I never had that before. So I always thought these people were nuts, that you were just all into it and, you know, oh my goodness, and you got to try this out. And I was going, oh, whatever, you know, come on, give me a break. And now I'm one of them. What the heck?
I don't know. Markus, I was too cool for it for years. So like, it's all identity, you know, like, but when you start realizing like, oh, I can feel better, and not just feel better physically, but feel better in that I can feel open. I can recognize, like, I expand and contract. I recognize that I'm not a complete failure. I recognize everybody's like me, like, even though I don't think so. It's powerful. And then all of a sudden, all of that old crap doesn't matter anymore. It's like, all right, like, I don't.
Right. It's yeah, it's like you're barfing it out on paper and it's gone out of your system, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Andy, what kind of call to action would you give anybody listening to you or hearing you today? Like something that they could do to have a better night or a morning, or if they're heavy in addiction right now, what would you say?
My big thing is micro steps forward. So like micro steps. And this is micro steps. So like, for example, people talk about like, oh, well, when you were overhauling your life, you know, your nutrition, getting your nutrition in order. That was not a micro step. Eliminating creamer in my coffee was a micro step. Taking like micro steps. Like people will often judge themselves for how small of a deposit, like James Clear in Atomic Habits, like micro daily deposits, like little deposits into yourself. And people will dismiss, well, I just did this. I just did 10 push-ups. It's like, no, screw you. You did 10 push-ups. Like, that's huge. And like to not minimize your micro steps. Another thing that I would say, especially with something like sobriety, if sobriety is the thing, because we do have to go through a period where we're putting shit down before we can go to the more, like, I did it backwards. Recovery was first for me, but a lot of people it isn't. And when you're like putting shit down, just one day at a time. And I don't count days in sobriety because I don't want to anchor to a point, you know, like what, 900 and whatever, what was it? What was almost 3 years ago? I don't remember. Like almost 3 years, however many days that is. I'm not going to anchor to that point, because then what happens is, if on day 1067, I decide that I'm going to go and drink 10 beers and get blasted out of my mind, then I'll be like, well, I threw it all away. It's all over. 1067. That's it. I guess I just better get drunk every day until I'm dead. You know, so it's like, it's a harm reductionist technique in that, you know, do what works for you. if that works for you, I definitely use day counting in the beginning as reinforcement. I thought that that was great. Like a reinforcement app, such as, you know, any app that counts that shit, that's great for reinforcement. But there gets to be a point where you're just anchoring yourself in a time that isn't now. And it's better to just be present and just be like, what can I do today? Because if you screw up just once, and a lot of people do, most people do, it's not a big deal. It's on the next day, you have 1,068 days of sobriety, not one, you know? So,
Yeah, that's true.
you know, like it's 1,068 days that you didn't drink, not one day because you fucked up once.
I
So,
never looked at it that way.
That's a beautiful.
yeah,
thing. That's right.
yeah,
Fantastic.
every day, day one.
That's, see,
Those are the jewels. Those are the gold nuggets. Okay. None of us who hasn't been in the situation would think about it that way, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
yeah, because one little hiccup doesn't negate all the micro steps up to
Right.
that point.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because all of us have some sort of habit that we do really well for a period of time, and then shit happens, as you say.
Mhm. And it's okay.
Yeah.
We're going to use that. You know that, right? I mean, this is
It's not my, it
going to
belongs
be
to
coming
me.
out somewhere. Watch Peggy's next blog or something, you know?
It belongs to the ether. This is the communal knowledge. It's all the Tao. I'm not even
Thank
talking.
you. Thanks for
That's
sharing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
guys.
and Andy blogs for me now. So Andy is writing in the book and blogging and going to be in the second book. And you have your own business. So tell us a little bit about what your business is. An entrepreneur, you're doing great. And what you do for women and men, or what's your target out there?
Okay, so I am a mindset and transformational coach, and I do identity work. So who you believe you are is who shows up in the world. So that's a big piece of my work. And I focus on present moment awareness. I have a women's coaching community. It's called Day One. I think I've just talked about why. It is, and it's about how we create from here and now. Most of my clients are women, so everyone in my coaching community is a woman, and all of my one-on-one clients, but one, have been women. And I don't have a niche. You know, I help all sorts of people. It really is just people that are feeling stuck. People that have similar stories to me tend to gravitate towards me, but also people that are different. Like, because I'm not, I'm very comfortable with using my voice. So a lot of people who aren't so comfortable with that gravitate towards me, wanting to come more into their self-esteem, eliminate people pleasing, things like that. So people gravitate, you know, I just shine the light, and whoever comes. My website is getthefuckoff.com, which was because initially I thought I wanted to focus on working with people just breaking bad habits. It's obviously expanded since I started, but getthefuckoff.com I created because, and this is why I created it, I had a very big ego, and my ego did not want to let people in, and it didn't want to let people be woo-woo with me or teach me anything or anything like that. So I called my website that to make it digestible to people that were like me, and people that don't want to feel like, you know, it's intimidating to a lot of people. And so I wanted to create something that was for people that I want them to know you don't have to sacrifice your personality to be well. Like, you don't. You can still be yourself and be well. So that it originally, it looked just like Pornhub. It was black and yellow. And it has, and then a friend of mine who informally coaches me in business said, Andy, I don't think that's a great idea. You know, it doesn't look professional. So I changed it, but I kept the logo, which still looks like Pornhub. A friend of mine designed it for me. And
I mean, this could be, you know, you're twice. This is two.
This is real. This is real. This is why I created it. I'm not even kidding. My logo looks like Pornhub, and like it's the same color scheme. Like, they're gonna come after me like Scarantino. We need to talk about.
I'm gonna check that logo out and get another addiction, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now out of control.
We are absolutely out of control. And I host the Get the Fuck Off podcast. Fuck has an asterisk in it in the Get the Fuck Off podcast. Apple, Spotify, Audible. You can find me all those places. I speak just like this. And, you guys can, people can
there's.
check it out.
All right.
Cheers with my little horn-topped unicorn cup.
I'm looking forward to getting mine in the mail. My mail doesn't come here; it goes a block over, so I haven't.
I know. I mailed it.
Right,
and yours does have a cuss word on it.
Oh.
It does, and I have one just like it.
Way awesome!
That's great.
Way awesome.
All right, Andy. And so, if somebody wants to reach out to you personally, did we share it through DMs or email? Like, how would you want them to reach out to you?
Andy, ANDEE at getthefuckoff.com is great. I do answer, I do respond to DMs. Sometimes with DMs, things fall into the message request abyss. Right. So, Andy at getthefuckoff.
When you get one of those back, we know that you were busy that day.
I'm polite. I'm actually a very soft person. It's just me is a little but yeah, you guys can, email is good. At Andy Scarantino on Instagram. I'm Andrea Scarantino on Facebook. And yeah, or getthefuckoff.com. You can go to my website and all my any way to contact me is there. So,
and nobody will forget that website.
No, it's brilliant.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Thank you. I thought of it up myself. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, of course, that's so good. All right, you guys. So we're gonna tie it up. I want you to go grab the book. My ring light there. Go grab the book, the Fourfold Formula for All Things Wellness. Oh, Andy, you have your book too.
I got it. I didn't have it next to me. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, don't even worry about it. Go grab it on Amazon and think about BOGO. So go grab your own copy and email me at peggy@allthingswellness.com. Show me that you really bought it, your invoice or your whatever. And we will give you another one autographed, and you can buy one and give one away. BOGO.
There you go.
All right, girl. Thank you so much for finally showing up. It is all about you.
I'm here. Sorry about that. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for having me. Thank you for chatting.
Hey,
absolutely. You guys can catch us on Sunday. The next show is Sunday. I think that we've got so many of these, I can't even remember. Sunday at 7, I think, 8. Stay tuned. You'll see us. We're really glad that you came along, and come back next time.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Perfect. Thank you.